And welcome to the ironing board for viewer questions. So we iron out the wrinkles in prepping. So I've been ironing out some handkerchiefs that I got, Sportsman's Guide. Washed them and they wound up like this after you iron them. As opposed, like, I could have just thrown them in the drawer and called it done, but no, I like nice ironed handkerchief. The question was, for the viewer questions, what exactly is good about prepping in Hawaii compared to the mainland? You could say strategic relocation, but every part of Hawaii, on the Big Island anyway, is different. We have microclimates here, so I mean just about 25 minutes drive that way there's a desert. If you saw my last video, this isn't the desert. So it's all about the terrain, the trade winds. So one reason that we got a lot of rain up here is the sea level trade winds blows the morning ocean moisture evaporation up into the that becomes clouds. The trade winds blow it onshore, and as it goes onshore, the wind keeps blowing and the clouds are forced to go uphill. I'm at 3,500 feet elevation up here, so by the time it gets here, the moisture condenses and it's ready to, it's kind of like the trade winds squeeze out the moisture out of the air as it gets higher up, and it dumps right here, which is what you saw in the last video. So the other side of the hill though, there's no moisture because it's all got dumped here, so there's a desert. 20 minutes drive that way. So you can say that every part of the Big Island, prepping is going to be different because the environment's different. There's different population densities. Generally speaking, on the Big Island, we're reliant on shipping. Before I got here, I've been here for 20 years, but before I got here, there was a labor strike, the longshoremen on Oahu, and they wouldn't unload the car or load the cargo containers. And from what I heard, things got a little crazy here because there was nothing on the shelves, no food. So we're reliant on shipping for energy, fuel, and food. And especially on energy, without gasoline, they can't get, we have cattle ranches here with lots of cattle, but that has to be processed and brought down. Most of the people live on the ocean. So like in Hilo or Kona down at sea level. And Parker Ranch is up at a higher altitude. That's where the cattle are. So, and going out and fishing in a boat requires usually gasoline. Although it can be done on a kayak, truth be told, it's just not in a commercial capacity, at least to my knowledge. But I'm really not an expert on kayak fishing or fishing at all. All I can tell you is that if you're planning on shore fishing, you're going to be eating reef fish, and on the Big Island and some other islands around the world, there's something called ciguatera that can be dangerous to your health. And the U of H had a test for it, but it turned out to be non-functional, although they sold the test kits for ciguatera, but it really just didn't work. So if you're going to eat shorefish, you're taking a chance on getting reef toxins in your system that you can't get out. So I stick to the ahi. But so where you are on the Big Island will depend like on how you have to prep. So I don't know if have watched any of my videos, and you know, I kind of do prepping for fun, but if you have a phone book, well, you might want to keep it as a souvenir because they stopped making them. But they used to say to prepare for hurricanes, because you get a lot of hurricanes that usually miss, because Mauna part of Kilauea, kind of like Kilauea's like a bump on Mauna I guess. I don't know. It's my geological expertise for you, but it's Mauna it starts under the ocean, this mountain. And if you go by where it starts at the bottom of the ocean to its top peak, this is the tallest mountain on the planet. So it has its own weather patterns. And basically what happens is anytime a hurricane approaches, it either gets pushed north or south of the island. And the trade wind patterns of the upper air atmosphere is different than it is at sea level, so frequently the top gets ripped off the hurricanes. And basically the mountain is almost immune up here to hurricanes, even though that we have tons of them that come in this direction. I don't think there's ever really been a hurricane that made it up here. When Iniki came and messed up Oahu pretty good, what happened was it got pushed south, and then an oddity of weather, low or high weather, low or high pressure, let it turn around and head back up north. And so usually that's not the direction that hurricanes come from, but because of the high or low pressure area, this hurricane did something very unusual and did a lot of damage to Oahu. But here we are on Mauna Loa, and I feel pretty safe from them. So, microclimates. Depends where you are in Hawaii. Now, if you're in a high population density area like Kona or Hilo, and I say high population, I mean for this island. You know, when I was in my condo, if things would have gone bad and there wouldn't have been any food, there wouldn't have been any rule of law for some reason, like government can't afford to pay the police or something, I can easily foresee that scores get settled, angry people who didn't like each other become violent easily. And as it was, there's a lot of homeless people in Kona. People come to Hawaii because the weather's warm, and if they think, well, if I don't have any money to rent, I can live on the street and it's warm and it won't be a problem. The cost of living here, though, is kind of very high. You know, if you want buy food at the store, it costs a lot more than on the mainland. And you blame that on the Jones Act, but lots of unique challenges for this area. Now, strategically, there was some kind of nuclear war that happened. Nobody would target the Big Island because there ain't nothing here worth wasting an ICBM on. Those are expensive items. They'd probably be saved for a more worthwhile target. Unless they want to rearrange the rocks on the volcano, or don't like one of my videos and want to get me. There's no real reason. Switched over the camera. So unless there's basically no strategic targets here on the Big Island. There's one military base, Pahakuloa. It's just a practice area. Sometimes the ship comes over Honokahau or Kauai, I think Kauai, and they bring some strikers over and they do target practice. It's basically a target practice range and has a very small, limited runway. There's basically nothing here worth attacking. Oahu maybe, Anderson in Guam, yeah, but Big Island, no way. So you could say strategic relocation. I remember when President Clinton sent the 7th Fleet into the Taiwan Straits, kind of trying to make it uppity again with Taiwan, and the Chinese general threatened to nuke Los Angeles. And I was living in Los Angeles. I was like, well, that had an impact on me. But basically when I moved here, I had like done a bicycle tour, backroads bicycle tour around the Big Island. And it was like I died and went to heaven. But this isn't heaven. The people around here are not angels at all. And the politics are deep blue, so you might not like that. But there's a lot of advantages, and where I live, on my particular microclimate, it is suited for growing certain things. And I'm going to be exploring that over time. So far I've only had time to plant some wildflowers that I got a free packet from bulk seed store online when I bought some red leaf lettuce and cilantro seeds, and I'm going to be putting together a rock planter for planting vegetables. In the very near future, I need to go collect more rocks, basically from the side of the road, about 20 miles that way around the desert. Get some lava rocks, and I got a small rock hammer, and see what I can do with it. So if you don't like face masks, having a handkerchief, I got these off Sportsman Guide for really inexpensive. I think they're Italian milsurp handkerchiefs, new, and I got like, I don't know, a dozen or 10 pack or something like that. I forgot. And it's just so much nicer to have a nice, ironed out, clean handkerchief. So yeah, it's nice to have a nice laundered handkerchief. If you saw Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, you don't want to be like Bilbo Baggins and say, oh, we have to stop and turn around, I left my handkerchiefs at home. And they're like, nope, we're not turning around for your handkerchief. So unless you want to carry used, crinkled up paper towels everywhere you go in your pocket, these are a lot nicer. And it's a little more classy to have a handkerchief than a crinkled up paper towel that you've blown your nose in 10 times already. And this gives me a chance to break out the ironing board and do some ironing. I haven't done any of that in a while. Like a decade or two. This ironing board came with a house, and so did the iron. So we do have the ability to iron at the Volcano Prepper compound. My God, what is the world coming to? When I have to iron my own clothes, don't I have somebody to do this for me? We live in a world of give me convenience or give me death, to pull a line from the dead Kennedys. That is so much nicer than a wrinkled up one or a wrinkled up paper towel. But I have to do this to my garage, and I've been working on puttering around the garage and organizing and unpacking. So I've been busy around here organizing preps, just organizing life. And when I was, here's the thing about prepping. Now you can say that, okay, I live on an island 3,000 miles from the nearest continental landmass, and I live on top of a mountain. So nothing, and I have a little bit of real estate to grow things. So what terrible thing could happen that would affect me? And I know people that thought like that. And then the latest pandemic came and, okay, bad things can happen. Picking up the next day. So basic prepping works, if you ask me. Just food, water, energy, self-defense, whatever microclimate you're in, and whatever skills you have to learn. Now, where I'm at, because let's face it, the politics of Hawaii are pretty left. It's a deep blue state, and so are the people. So I kind of have to try and set that aside, what people's politics are, as far as my neighbors go, and just kill them with kindness. I'm just going to be the best, nicest neighbor I can possibly be. And take it from there. Plus, I got an ironing board and I can use it. Yeah, man. Like the way these come out when you take care of them. So, you know, you have to know where you're living and the microclimates and the terrain, and know your neighbors and be nice to them. And let's just face it, some people aren't going to work out if you're trying to put together a preparedness group. You have to take them. You have to take people one at a time. But I would say that just doing your basic preps will work fine wherever you are. And obviously you have to be aware over here that you're relying on shipping for a lot of your supplies. So if you've got food set back, water filtration up here, not so much, you don't need to have tons of water, 55-gallon barrels or something, I mean, but restrict if there's problems. Maybe where you live you need to restrict your water usage to bare minimum necessities, essential. But out here, it's not so much a problem. I'd say, I don't know what else to add to what I've told you about prepping in Hawaii. There's plenty of opportunities for fishing. If you want to take the chance with the reef fish, it's up to you. I like the deep water ahi. That's what I try to stick to. I don't know if that will still be available if there's any energy problems as far as getting stuff shipped here. I think Oahu has like 1 or 2 refineries for refining oil, and they're pretty busy. Keeps them; those places are busy, and if they have economic problems, then because the price of speculators market riggers have moved the price of oil to negative numbers, like happened recently, that could be a problem. But it's not a bad place because I don't think that strategically there's going to be any military, nobody's going to do any military adventure on the Big Island. It's just, if you like peace and quiet, it's a great place. If you want to live your life, it's not a bad place. I like it. And my dog, since I moved here, my went to see my doctor a couple weeks back, and they said my blood pressure was perfect. And nobody said anything about me medically. It was perfect since I was like 20. And I'm over 20 by a lot. So I'm going to try and keep my blood pressure nice and smooth. Be the friendliest person I can be. Try and follow all the laws of the state of Hawaii, even the blatantly unconstitutional ones. And of course, if somebody decides they want to kick my door down at 2 a.m. and they have evil intentions, I'm perfectly capable of dealing with that. Wouldn't enjoy it, but you do what you got to do. But I'm happy to mind my own business. Keep my head down. Put one foot in front of the other. And live my life. Of course, I have quite a few preps set back as far as freeze-dried food goes. I think I'll do a video on that. I don't know. Some people say, don't show your preps. Operational security. I'm careful, although I am doing a Airbnb from here. There's an Airbnb that when the law allows, the state starts letting people in, and I don't know, the 14-day quarantine is still going to be in place, so I have no idea. They say they're opening it up on October 15th, but it sounds more like they're just moving their lips and not actually letting anybody in without a pre-test before you get on the plane to come here, and all kinds of inconvenient requirements for travelers. It's not very hospitable. I mean, everybody wants to be careful. There's no doubt about that. So I hope you've got a new view of ironing and prepping on the Big Island. I don't know if I really answered your question as far as how prepping is different on the Big Island as far as from the mainland, because I'm not on the mainland anymore. I would say on the Big Island what you have is an island mindset. So if something goes wrong on the mainland, it's like, well, that's mainland people with mainland problems. We are 3,000 miles away from the mainland. That's a long way. And nobody can just get in the car. If they got a problem with me, they can't just drive over here and try and overrun my the island. Just, they can't do it. So I think some of the politicians here, I've actually heard them say that, well, we're protected from Washington, D.C. and by the ocean. Well, I mean, the Constitution applies here whether you like it or not, and they like to be their own little tyrants in a, I guess, a big fish in a small pond. And whatever they say goes, because they're in charge, right? Because people were dumb enough to vote for them. But anyway, that's all politics. I'd say just basic prepping is food, water, filtration at least, tools, gathering materials and knowledge for chaotic times in which we find ourselves today. Ain't that nice? So I hope you enjoyed this little prepper talk from the ironing board. And I don't know if you guys like it, maybe I'll make it a regular thing. I don't usually iron that much because I've never actually had an ironing board since I've been on the Big Island for 20 years. take stuff to the dry cleaner sometimes, but that's how that goes. Life changes as you go through it. You ever notice that? Alright, so we've come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and maybe consider giving me a subscription. Kind of given up on YouTube and Google, but that's what you're supposed to say at the end of your videos. So there you go. Don't want to break with convention. Y'all stay safe, y'all be cool, keep prepping. To all my prepper friends out there,